What are the opportunities for companies? Because I can only begin to imagine the thousands of ways that businesses would like to use this data.
I think when we can get through some of these consumer privacy concerns and find a level of this at which consumers are comfortable with, I think that there are all kinds of opportunities here. So imagine, for example, applications which might tell you, do you go out on Friday nights?
Not as much as I used to, but sometimes.
Right. So in cases like that, wouldn't it be nice to see recommendations that might come to you of interesting places that you might want to go? And what we might do is we might say, well, Jeff said to us, why don't you look at my historical patterns of where I might like to go, compare that to other people who you've determined who are kind of like me in some way, and return some interesting things. It could be some popular things. It could be some out-of-the-way things that you might be interested in. These are the kinds of services and values that we could deliver to you that you might find interesting as a consumer.
And what's interesting especially is that you can do this in real time. In other words, you have, for example, what is essentially a demonstration app, right, which is the CitySense app, where you show in San Francisco where people are from moment to moment.
That's right, and it's not only where people are from moment to moment, but it's where people are who are people like me.
People like me, right.
Right, which is, I think, something that perhaps it's part of the human condition, that's something that we all like. We all like to go to places that are associated with people like us.
What strikes me is that what you're talking about has become possible only in recent years. Partly, as you say, because there are so many cell phones out there and other GPS devices providing so much data.
And so it's only over the course of the last 5 years that has started to throw off these enormous rivers of information that could be used for other kinds of purposes. And you see it in some business models today, like Twitter is using some of this stuff. Obviously, Google is using some of this stuff, and others.
Right.
The other thing that's happened is over the last 5 to 10 years, there have been some new technologies that have come along that have been pioneered by some of the internet companies to deal with what's called big data.
Right.
So these technologies that are from companies like Google and Facebook and others that were open sourced and made available to the technology community at large, and that many hundreds, if not thousands, of startups today are based on building software platforms off of these open sourced software technologies that allow you to do things amazingly fast and amazingly efficiency, whereas 15 years ago this would not have been possible. So that the cost of building a company today, building and running a company to do massive, amazing things is incredibly cheap. And I think that's why you're seeing an enormous amount of interest and kind of burgeoning effort in this space to try to address these kinds of problems.